Operating in the Courts of Heaven by Robert Henderson, continuing with chapter 9. The mandate of the ecclesia. Genesis 18:20-21 shows that God himself went down to Sodom and Gomorrah to examine the cries of evidence before him that demanded judgment. And the Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry against it that has come to me, and if not, I will know. Genesis 18:20-21. Somehow or other, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah had reached the throne of God. This cry was presenting evidence that the city was worthy of judgment and destruction. The Lord went down to investigate and validate the evidence that had been given. The Lord does something very interesting. He brings Abraham into the equation. Genesis 18:17-18 shows that God shares with Abraham what is about to happen. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm doing, since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Genesis 18:17-18. A casual reading would cause us to think that God is just sharing information with Abraham because he is his friend. This is true, but there is a much deeper reason why God shared this with Abraham. He brought Abraham into the equation because God was seeking a legal reason to show mercy. He knew that Abraham would seek to give God a legal reason to show mercy. Genesis 18:22-26 shows that Abraham is seeking to give God a legal reason to spare this wicked place. Then the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. And Abraham came near and said, would you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there were 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked. So the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not judge of all the earth do right, said the Lord. The Lord said, if I find Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. Genesis 18:22-26. Please notice that Abraham petitioned God on the basis of him being judge and judging righteously. God agreed with Abraham and said he would not destroy it for the sake of 50 righteous. Abraham continued to petition God as judge and finally had it reduced to 10 righteous men. The Lord said for the sake of 10 righteous men he would spare the city and territory. Genesis 18:32-33 shows this legal exchange taking place. Then he said, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak but once more. Suppose 10 should be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. So the Lord went his way as he had finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Genesis 18:32-33. God was looking for a reason to be merciful and knew that Abraham would endeavor to give it to him legally. I have heard many people say that Abraham stopped too soon in his intercession. This is simply not true. In the culture of that day and in Jewish culture, 10 denotes the smallest number that constitutes a government. God said that if he could find 10 righteous men, the smallest number that could represent government, for the sake of those 10, he would spare the city. We sometimes think we need the whole of a population to repent, or at least the majority to receive God's mercy. All we actually need is a governmental representation of the population to petition the courts of heaven for mercy instead of judgment. This is the job of the ecclesia, to be that governmental representation who can operate in the court of heaven to secure blessings from heaven for a nation and a generation. God will spare nations for the sake of the ecclesias within it. If we are righteous and carry recognizable governmental authority in the courts of heaven, God is looking for a reason to be righteous and show mercy. It is our job as his people to get things legally in place so as judge he can feel his fatherly passion. The Lord is judge of all. He is also our Father who desires to bless us and release us our inheritance. May we become proficient in his courts so he legally has the right as judge to bless our going out and coming in. This is the passion of the Father's heart.